Hello friends and listeners, you have another brand new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. My name is Jose, also known as Cupcake. I'm joined by my co-host Mike, the Wildebeest. If you are listening and you haven't seen the warning of spoilers ahead, we are actually in the spoilered, meaning there are spoilers and we're going to discuss this entire film, movie breakdown, ending explanation, you know, YouTube loves that stuff, of David Lowery's Mother Mary. So again, if you're here, you're going to want to check out the link in our description here for the spoiler-free review of Mother Mary. This is counter-programming. We got a weekend full of Mario Brothers Galaxy and Michael Jackson, and we opted to do this one, which is an A24 film starring Anne Hathaway and Michaela Coel. Michaela Coel from the HBO series I May Destroy You, and she was also featured in Wakanda Black Panther. And this is directed by David Lowery. So there's really no way to talk about this film without spoiling it in some ways. Anne Hathaway plays a pop star, and what we gather is that she and the Michaela Coel character were friends. And as Anne Hathaway became this, you know, pop star and released her first album, Michaela Coel was basically her stylist and helped with the look of forming Mother Mary. We come to find out that, like, her inspiration was as Joan of Arc. And so, you know, we see this imagery at the beginning of the film. She's got, like, you know, this sort of like halo and messianic prophet, kind of like Jesus crown or whatever, kind of like the Madonna Madam X shirt that I'm wearing here, right?
Yep.
And what we come to find out is that at some point, Anne Hathaway started listening to her management and listening to other stylists and this and that, and then took the pop star character, Mother Mary, her own character basically, in a different direction. And then suddenly Michaela Coel found herself on the outside of this, right? Just shut out. And what ended up happening was she starts her own business. And so what I think is kind of clever about this is when the film starts, these two are at the top of their success, essentially. Although I will say, if you're watching closely, the beginning of the film opens with a rather shocking image of what looks like her maybe committing suicide, because you just see her sort of falling and there's a rope. And so what ends up happening is that Anne Hathaway comes to her saying, I need you to do a dress for me because I'm going to be doing this midnight performance. The person who's opening for me is this Taylor Swift, you know, artist who's really big now. And I just want to strip it down and get back to who I was when I was with you. And almost immediately she's very acidly met by Michaela Coel's character. Like, so much so that Michaela Coel's character almost looks like a demon, because Michaela Coel's face is so expressive. She's got these beautiful cheekbones. She's gorgeous, these wide eyes, this wide smile, and her eyes open up and she's so mean. She's almost demonic to her, right?
Well, the opening dialogue is all her basically warning us that this bitch is coming up here. And I love the way that we kind of are seeing from her point of view what's about to happen. And then I love the way that she's narrating it, and then boom, she walks in at the same time. I love
it's
that.
So good. It's so good. And that whole opening sequence works wonderfully on so many levels. Like, it's like, okay, we're visually being introduced to Mother Mary in that, but we're hearing this narration, this sort of like, you know, dual storyline in some ways, just like their lives. And then she's like, it's creeping up on me, it's scary, and then she's here or whatever. It's a bang up way to start a film. And then she just barges in. She's like, where's Sam, and Hunter Schafer's like, nowhere. And then we kind of get the tour of her entire facility. And again, I think this is why the visual style of this film works so well with the story itself. Visually, what we're seeing two people basically duke it out from this past transgression, this shared trauma, if you will. There is a lot of visual nods to that. And then she's pulling out these fabrics, right? And it's almost like a metaphor or an analogy for pulling out past history or past transgressions. So pulling something up, oh, this used to look good on you. It doesn't anymore. I'm going to pick a new material, right?
What's the saying? Put it all out on the table. That's what she does.
Yeah, I mean,
continually.
really, totally, all of that, and stripping down and like taking her clothes off and seeing the measure of the land and how she is now, like these two friends meeting again after all this time being separated.
Do you honestly think that Michaela didn't have more than friendship relationship? It felt like her feelings were much more than what Anne Hathaway has. Now, we don't ever get the passion of their relationship or friendship from Anne Hathaway the same way we do from Michaela. Everything about it seems very, very like, not only did I just help you create all this, but I was falling in love with you. And you didn't see it. You didn't hear it. You didn't feel it. So I got a lot of that, but I don't think it's there.
So I don't think that they were lovers so much as...
I don't know if they were, but I think Michaela had a thing. It seems very...
She could have.
Very coded.
But I think what this was they were best friends. In order to get Anne Hathaway to become Mother Mary and secure the album deal and become this big star, Michaela Coel helped her. True. And she did it because they were a team. And she says that. She says, and this is why it also works on that sort of macro level of commercialism and artists putting, their personal self into the work that they do. She says, yeah, I wanted you to be Joan of Arc, but that splash of red in that first outfit, that was like when I forget what she said, but it was at that release part, the first time I heard you singing and I spilled my wine on my dress, and that stuck with me, and I put that personal emotion into that costume.
In the dress.
Right. And again, this is that sort of micro meta level storytelling about art and the artist. You put so much of your personal self into making a song, making a dress, and then it becomes commoditized and consumers take it. And then suddenly you're on to the next thing to make them happy, and you're losing yourself. You're losing the personality of it. And they lost the connection between the two of them.
Because they became codependent. From the dialogue, they became codependent upon.
They did. And what's also kind of cool about the story is that sometimes it takes splitting apart, choosing the path to become your own self, and then coming back together and then reconciling that. So, Anne Hathaway says, well, at some point I stopped being me and I just became this thing, this commercial juggernaut, and I lost why I loved doing this, right? Which brings her back to her, because she was like, we were a team and I miss that and I want to come back to that. And Michaela Coel, same way. You shut me out. I had nothing left to do. So I built my own fashion empire because you set me adrift, basically. And she also became successful, so much so that Hathaway is like coming back to her, and it's all like a big secret. She's not supposed to be there. But it's all just so brilliant.
And there's a lot of vaginas and a lot of like images of vaginas and colors. It is so feminine. We're definitely the wrong gender to be talking about this film.
I think so. Well, I had hinted at in the spoiler-free section, which is there is a way that I think women interact with each other that men will absolutely not understand. Yeah. Like, you hear these phrases like women only dress for other women, not for men. And this movie and the writing sort of covers that. The fact that, and I mentioned I May Destroy You as well. Michaela Coel explores that in her series about how women can have all of these emotions. They can be jealous of each other. They can try to outdo each other. They can maybe become frenemies, but the love is still there. The bond is still there. And that is not something I think men will ever understand, quite honestly. But do you want to talk about where the supernatural stuff comes in and what you think that imagery is?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of cool imagery. So again, when we talk about this being a play, and there's times when we get flashbacks to different points. And did you feel like this was gothic? I know a lot of people are calling this a gothic psychological drama because of the barn that they're in is very gothic on purpose.
Yeah. Actually, you know what that looks like? That looks like the you saw Oddity. I swear to God, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
set where they shot that, maybe, because it looks like that space that the artist was working in with the levels and the stone and everything. But so this is, people are going to listen to this and they're going to say, Jose is fucking bullshit, okay?
No, you're not.
But when I was watching this, I was like, why am I getting Bram Stoker Dracula vibes?
Yeah, gothic-y looking, yeah.
And I happened to read something really quickly while I was going through Wikipedia. Lowery was inspired by not only the Taylor Swift, I think it's called the Revolutions tour, not the Eras tour, but the concert film before that, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. It was a touchstone for this film, and I was like, that makes sense because
the gothic visuals.
There's a lot of like flowy fabrics and sensuality, like the brides in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula or whatever. It was crazy, but so yeah, the supernatural stuff. Do you want to talk about how that somehow gets injected here?
Yeah. So as we see the film unfolds and people are telling stories about their past. I love how they like open up doors and boom, we're into the past.
Oh my God, I know. Or they turn around cool. and like the barn floor is feeding into like the hotel carpet
into the hotel,
and then you can even see above the rafters of the studio, and it's like, this is great. It's like theatricality, music video, like that kind of thing.
So during one of the flashbacks, we find out that Michaela goes back and sees her during her last tour. And during that last tour, she kind of wanted some kind of closure. But what ended up happening is she was so filled with regret, jealousy, anger, all of these feelings and emotions that just created this, like this bright red satin. I don't know if you could say anything more looked like the feelings that they were describing than this creation that kind of comes from her feelings, her anger, her frustration. Out comes this red, almost silk-like, ghost-ish.
You know what it kind of looked like?
It's like a puppet.
You know what it kind of looked like? It reminds
vagina.
Yeah, well, so yeah, Mike's right. She basically she's watching her perform. She grits her teeth so hard that she breaks like her tooth, and in pain she leaves, and then she wakes up in the middle of the night and something has crawled out of her. There's like a blood trail down the comforter or the duvet, and on the floor is this thing. It's the embodiment of the jealousy, the regret. It's actually the shared trauma between the two of them.
It kind of looks like afterbirth. Having had home births, it looks like you take the placenta and you spread it out.
Not only does it kind of look like a placenta, but it also looks like a blood clot after a period.
Yeah.
And it also looks like the creature from Possession. So that scene, I was like, oh my God, it's Possession. Is she gonna get on the floor and start like writhing or whatever? Which Anne Hathaway kind of does when she does her dance. Okay. So this creature comes
out of her, basically.
But then it ends up becoming like this red fabric, and it floats away. She lets it out. Right?
She lets it go. And that's when it goes, and that's when we get that great FKA Twigs sequence, where basically FKA Twigs is a big fan of Mother Mary. During one of her concert performances, she invites her back to her house and they do a little seance. I love everything about that scene. It's so choreographed, like every moment, every movement. It feels like you're actually watching a dance sequence. My daughter does a lot of interpretive and modern dance performances, and the last one she did, they were up there talking and moving in their dance moves, but every bit of it was choreographed, but it felt like you were just watching friends talking, and it was part of the performance. And there's at times when this feels like you're watching performance art. And I love that so much, having my daughter being in performance art. So anyway, going back to that sequence, she does this seance, and that book brings out, this theme, which again, this red, whether it's afterbirth or vaginal or blood or evil or whatever,
or trauma or something,
whatever you want to make it out to be. It's the wedge that came between this friendship, and it's what is kind of forcing them to go their separate ways. And it's crazy how, because Anne Hathaway didn't really feel like she deserved this. She had her people kind of just get in the way, and she's flabbergasted by the emotions that Michaela has in that second act, where she's like, well, I didn't see it that way. And you could tell that Michaela's been sitting on this for however long, a decade plus, wanting to just unleash all of this. And she finally gets to unleash it. And that unleashing has created this, I don't know, ghost-like, or this feeling that we all have with other people when relationships go a certain way. This uneasiness that has made her second half of her career kind of feel like she's out of touch, which is why she comes back. This red satin silk thing that was created out of all these emotions and trauma and past trauma, kind of like the Babadook and these other horror films have done similar stuff. This is done in a very elegant way, a very beautiful way, but it's still like a ghost that's tearing these two women apart. Michaela finds success, but she's just holding this anger and this aggression, and you could tell she creates this almost like a militant atmosphere at where she works, and she's really well,
so that it can't happen again.
It cannot happen again. She's not letting anybody else in the way she did. There's so many wonderful, symbolic metaphors here.
Oh, completely. And the way that, think about it in your own past relationships, when you've had this hurdle with another friend, right? There's this portion where you get it all out about your version of it. And it's so amazing because the flashback that we're seeing, it's exactly how you sort of almost self-aggrandize or romanticize the hurt or the trauma. And this is what happened, and it was so dramatic. And then the other person is like, it didn't happen that way. Like, you did,
exactly.
Right? And so it's them hashing this stuff out. And then, so once the red silk is like the elephant in the room, or the red silk in the room, as it were, they decide to exorcise it because Anne Hathaway says it's inside me and I want to get it out or whatever. So then it becomes even more supernatural.
That great dance is created by that being inside her. And you can see her trying to get it out. God, this movie is so beautiful. I love it so much.
I know. But you know what?
The more we talk about it,
I think you're right. It is not going to work for everybody because I can just see some of my friends watching the Anne Hathaway dance solo sequence and sort of giggling and being like, the fuck are we watching? What the fuck does this have to do with anything? And then the red carpet and then the red silk coming out, and they're going to be like, red silk Spectre? Fuck this movie. But I don't know. I bought it. I completely bought into it. And so
should we get to the very end where we talked about the open wound? Let's have you go ahead and talk about that since you mentioned that.
So in order to reconcile that, they just have to really get to the bottom of what it is that's hurting them. And ultimately, Anne Hathaway apologizes. She has to apologize for the way that she treated her. And then Michaela Coel also, in a way, has to reconcile the fact that, she did recognize the contribution, and that's why she's here. That it wasn't a full, I shut you out of my life. I just got, cluttered by big commercialism, right? And so they do this kind of exorcism. And I mean, it's crazy the stuff that ends up happening, and it's also put in with this concert that she's doing, and then that final image. So they're doing this exorcism, they get interrupted, but then there's this final image of her singing on stage, and then eventually what happens is Michaela Coel is standing where Mother Mary is, and the red silk specter is coming out of her heart, and it's forming Mother Mary, who's still singing. And so it symbolizes that they got over it, and they're now together, and they're on the same page, and they're basically two souls acting as one, and that they can create more beautiful art together as the way it was intended. Right? Now, what's weird though is at some point during this exorcism, Michaela Coel is sort of saying through all the history of what you have done and all the different incarnations, we're going to unify them because I was still a part of all of those things because we were always this creative team. But it made it almost seem like maybe she had put out 6 albums, which feels like a long time to be estranged from somebody, because she starts saying these titles, which I assume are the album titles, and then you see her in different stages in different clothing or whatever. Yeah. But did you get that feeling that
Yeah. And the one thing we didn't mention is how she had to feel that pain because, again, Anne Hathaway's character didn't feel the same pain that she caused on Michaela. And so the metaphor is that she had to actually cut her chest open.
Yes, that's right.
And so it coming, into the chest area and like into her heart, that
because they were going to try to exorcise it. Yeah.
Yes.
And the amazing visual is they're doing the exorcism. She wants to cut it to release it because she's told the story about how she thought she saw the red silk specter and she fell off of the elevated concert platform while she was performing, which I read it as there was a suicide attempt, but I don't know. She could have just fallen or had remember when Pink went flying on her harness and she flew into the wall, or Katy Perry, the thing malfunctioned and she almost fell or something. But I read it as kind of like a suicide thing. It's funny. You read the two as being past lovers, and I read her thing as kind of a suicide attempt.
I don't know if they're past lovers, but I still think that Michaela fell in love with her and it never was reciprocated, because again, Anne Hathaway is so caught up in the fame and in the character that was created that it took her from everything, and she was just I can't remember the exact dialogue, but basically she just mentions how she was going through the motions and she was not even being herself after that moment. Because I have had a friend who moved away who I'm very, very close to, and after they moved, I haven't seen them for many, many years, and you almost kind of feel this this uneasiness. I wish before they left during pandemic. I wish before he left that I had the chance to talk to him, and I think about it all the time. And while watching this movie, I was like, I get what this is about. That feeling when you have someone close to you and you made a selfish, or someone else made a selfish move, or maybe you both did and one of you doesn't realize it. And that friendship, that emotion of it all, it's still there and you're still miss it. There's no closure. And that's what this was about, is neither of them had true closure. And sometimes I feel about that with some of my friends that have moved away. But that's the power of film, is that it helps you feel normal. It helps you realize that other people feel the same way that you do. But this rift in this friendship and the way that it dissolved without actually closing the door naturally caused them to both go into such alternate ways that it's great, happy ending, really, to see them come back together, put it all out on the table, have that big battle. And in the end, their friendship comes out on top. So,
and stronger. And she makes a amazing dress for her that is red, because initially Anne Hathaway is like, no red, you will not do red.
Yep.
But then, we see the dress and it looks fantastic. And then we get that final image of, the red silk specter coming out of her and making Mother Mary. It's so good.
And then the dress has its own little title card at the end with the name of the designer. That was really cool.
So cool. So cool. And then it also ends with a music video of her performing on stage as if they've become one. And now you're seeing the final product of her just, selling it. Oh, so good. I love this movie.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, me too. We
Lowery.
Love it, y'all.
We love it. And Lowery, you better put a fucking commentary on this special edition A24 mega box set that I'm going to buy. Okay. So, yeah.
And this led to a really good conversation. Again, I know a lot of people out there and I wanted to see Michael. I wanted to review Michael. I think it would have been a rage review about basically being force-fed 5 pounds of cotton candy and no substance, right? Exactly.
So, but Mother Mary, folks, please see it. It's the more I talk about it, it's a hard watch, most definitely.
It is a hard watch. It's definitely, amongst the top 5 of the year for me so far.
Oh my God. If not my favorite of the year, it's so good.
So good. And God damn, I'm so excited for 5. We got 5 Anne Hathaway movies. This is just one, and it's exciting.
I can't wait. Although I have to say, okay, folks, please don't slay me in the comments. I know people are excited about Chris Nolan, because we're best friends. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I don't live or die by his films. You guys heard it first. I didn't think Oppenheimer was all that fucking great. And I got killed for saying that because they were like, Nolan's the best. How dare you say it's, I'm sorry. I'm not thrilled to see The Odyssey, but maybe it'll surprise me.
I kind of feel the same as you. I'm not, out of all of them, that's the one that I'm the least interested in. but the one where they like their house lands in like some kind of dinosaur world.
Oh my God, what's it called? The End of Oak Street? Jesus Christ, that looks amazing.
From the director of It Follows and J.J. Abrams producing, this looks wonderful. I mean, she's got a whole slate of shit. It's hopefully this is going to turn into the Anne Hathaway podcast is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Welcome to the annual, folks. Okay. The year of Anne Hathaway. Are we going to review Devil Wears Prada, by the way? Or are we going to?
Probably, but we'll have to take it. Yeah. I mean, I'm down for it. The first film to me is very much connected to my past relationship and the past marriage that I had.
Okay.
That's the only time I'd seen it. So I kind of need to rewatch it to give it a new light, I think.
You should. You should pull out your red silk specter and watch it. I read the book, the original. I loved it. The movie is maybe a little more comedic, whereas the novel was a little more acid dipped in some ways. But I don't know. What are we reviewing next week?
Okay, Devil Wears Prada 2, Hokum, and Animal Farm.
I'm up for Devil Hokum.
Yeah. Devil Hokum.
Or Hokum Devil. Yeah.
Hokum Wears Prada.
There you go. I love it. It's perfect. All right, folks. So we do our pod roll in our spoiler-free episode. That thus adjourns our spoiler discussion of Mother Mary, and boy, did we get a good discussion out of it. I don't know. From now on, when this releases on home media, my double features are going to be Black Swan and Mother Mary, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So, but at any rate, folks, Mike, parting thoughts before we adjourn?
Yep, same as always. Get out there to the theaters, go see movies with your kids and your family and friends. I can't wait to see this. A lot of these times we review these, I see them on like a Thursday or a Friday during lunch or when I'm kind of have my free time. But man, do I need to see this movie with my wife and daughter. So get out there and see the movies with your family and friends.
Absolutely. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. And we will see you on the other side. Bye.
Yeah.